Welcome to YouTube channel Bookwise with Vishal. Today we're diving into a book that, well, pretty much everyone encounters at some point, but it stays with you. J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye.
It really does. And it's so much more than just, required reading. It feels radical even now. We're getting this story straight from Holden Caulfield. He's our narrator, cynical, yeah, confused definitely, but also intensely emotional. And he's telling us all this looking back.
Right, from that institution, that rest home in California, that framing is just crucial from the get-go, isn't it?
Absolutely. It colors everything. We know we're getting an unfiltered, maybe unreliable, but
Yeah.
incredibly immediate voice.
It's like this raw confession. You get the slang, the way he jumps around, the honesty, even the contradictions. It feels like a real 16-year-old talking, one who's right on the edge. So, our plan today is to trace those few days, the chaos, after he gets kicked out of Pensy Prep, his wandering through New York City, and what leads up to that eventual collapse.
And to really get a handle on the breakdown, we need to understand Holden's core conflict. It's this deep, almost visceral rejection of anything he calls phony. He just cannot stand superficiality, adult hypocrisy, all the little compromises people make. He wants pure authenticity.
But it's a paradox, right? Because beneath all that anger at the phonies.
Exactly. Beneath it is this desperate, almost frantic need for real human connection and this impossible desire to protect innocence, his own, and especially the innocence of others, like his sister Phoebe.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Pensy Prep. Another school expulsion looming.
Yeah, the latest in line. He's failed 4 out of 5 subjects, only passed English.
And he tries to act like he doesn't care, just dismisses the whole place. But even in his last hours there, he's seeking out interactions, isn't he? With the very people he claims to despise.
It's telling. His failure isn't about smarts, it's about will. He refuses to play the game, refuses to engage with these systems he sees as, well, phony. By labeling it all phony, he kind of creates this distance, right? It justifies him checking out, even physically, standing way off watching the football game. It sets the pattern for New York.
And that first real interaction we see, visiting old Mr. Spencer, his history teacher, it really sets the tone for how he views adults trying to give advice.
Spencer seems genuine, trying to help, reading Holden's awful exam answers, talking about the future and responsibility.
But Holden just squirms. He finds it embarrassing, irritating.
And what's interesting is, even if Spencer's sincere, Holden experiences it as a performance. Like Spencer's just reciting the rules. It feeds that defense mechanism. Any kindness that comes with strings attached with expectations must be artificial. He can't seem to accept that a decent adult could also be part of this system he hates.
It's such a bind. He demands this absolute purity, and if there's one crack, one perceived flaw, boom, they're a phony. We see it right away back in the dorms with his classmates.
Oh, definitely. Take Ward Stradlater, his roommate. Stradlater's the classic big man on campus, handsome, popular. You'd think Holden might envy him. But no, Holden despises that smooth surface. Why? Because underneath, Stradlater's a secret slob.
Right. He zooms in on the dirty razor, the hidden messiness.
That's classic Holden. It's not about the outside. It's the inner reality.
Yeah.
The hidden hypocrisy or, lack of discipline that gets him. The internal corruption.
But the real emotional charge at Pensy revolves around someone who isn't even there. Jane Gallagher.
Jane. She's like this ghost of pure, untainted connection. The ideal. Holden clings to these incredibly tender memories of a summer they spent together, playing checkers, just being quiet together. And that one time he comforted her, possibly about her stepfather. It's very poignant.
She represents everything he's terrified of losing or seeing spoiled, which is why Stradlater dating her sends him into a spiral.
Exactly. It's not really romantic jealousy in the typical sense. It's more like custodial panic. He sees Stradlater as this potential corrupting force.
And that fear, that need to protect Jane, leads directly to the bedrock of Holden's entire worldview, his grief. His brother, Allie.
Yes. When Stradlater asks him to write that English composition,
he chooses Allie's baseball glove.
We have to pause here. Allie's death from leukemia when he was 11. That's the event. That's what broke Holden's world. The glove itself, covered in poems, Allie wrote in green ink to read when he was bored in the outfield. It's this perfect symbol, isn't it? Unique, beautiful innocence just snatched away.
Holden idolizes Allie, the smartest, the kindest, and the fact that someone like Allie could just die. For Holden, it means the universe is fundamentally unfair, rigged against goodness.
And the grief wasn't quiet. He tells us he smashed all the garage windows with his bare fist the night Allie died, broke his
Yeah.
own hand. He's still carrying that raw, unprocessed trauma.
So the fight with Strad later, it's not just about Jane, is it?
Not at all. It's triggered by his fear for Jane's innocence, sure, but it's like a replay of that night in the garage. Holden feels completely powerless, lashing out physically against a world he can't control, a world that takes things away.
And getting beaten, pinned down, the bloody nose, it's total humiliation. He failed. Failed to protect Jane, failed to win the fight.
It's the final straw at Pensy. It confirms his rejection of that whole world. So he packs his bags, yells, "Sleep tight, ya morons," and he's gone.
But here's that contradiction again. He runs from the phonies.
Only to immediately start lying himself.
Yeah.
On the train, he meets Mrs. Morrow, the mother of a guy he can't stand.
And he just spins this incredibly complex web of lies. Praises her son, calls him sensitive and popular.
Invents a brain tumor for himself to explain why he's leaving school early.
So why? If he hates phoniness so much, why the constant deception?
Well, the lies are a shield, aren't they? And a form of control. He creates these false personas, and it keeps people at a distance. It prevents real intimacy. It's almost like it's safer for him to be phony than to risk being truly seen, being vulnerable. And this sets up the cycle for New York, desperately lonely, seeking connection, but sabotaging it before it can even start.
Which brings us to New York City. He arrives and immediately chooses more isolation, checking into the Edmond Hotel instead of facing his parents.
The Edmond. It's such a key setting. It's seedy, a bit grim, and his hotel window becomes this portal into, well, disturbing adult behaviors.
Yeah, the cross-dressing man, the couple spitting drinks on each other.
It just confirms all his worst fears, doesn't it? That the adult world is perverse, messy, kind of dangerous.
And he tries to connect right away, but it's also impulsive and shallow.
Completely. He calls Faith Cavendish, this girl he barely knows, hoping for a late-night meetup. Then he goes down to the lavender room.
Tries to dance with those three women.
Yeah, tourists from Seattle. Even while he's trying to engage, he's internally mocking them, calling them morons. He wants company, but he can't stop judging.
Each attempt just seems to leave him feeling even more alone.
He's dipping his toes into adulthood and finding the water absolutely freezing. But the real low point, the most traumatic failure of connection, has to be the encounter with Sonny and Maurice.
Oh, definitely. That whole sequence is brutal. He agrees to have Sonny, the prostitute, sent up mostly out of loneliness and maybe some awkward curiosity.
But when she gets there, she's so young.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a sadness about her, too. It clashes horribly with his ideas about purity.
He can't go through with it. The reality of paid impersonal sex is too much. He gets flustered, makes excuses, says he just wants to talk.
He's trying to keep that bubble of innocence intact, even in that situation. But it backfires completely when Maurice, the elevator operator, pimps, comes back with Sonny.
Demanding more money. And Holden tries to stand up for himself.
And gets punched. Hard. Right in the stomach. Left there, alone, humiliated, crying, fantasizing about being some tough movie guy getting revenge.
That fantasy just highlights how powerless he actually feels. He can't square his curiosity about sex with the ugliness and exploitation he sees. He wants connection without the complicated mess of adult desire.
It really shows how stuck he is developmentally. He's curious about sex, but terrified by it emotionally. He keeps women in these neat boxes. There's the pure, untouchable Jane, and then there's the troubling, vulnerable Sonny. He can't seem to integrate those ideas.
But it's not all bleak. Amidst all the phoniness and despair, he does find these little moments of, well, goodness, like meeting the nuns at the diner.
That's such a lovely brief respite. He talks with them about Romeo and Juliet, gives them a donation, and what strikes him is their sincerity. They seem genuine, unconcerned with money or status, their simple purpose, their kindness. It briefly restores his faith that maybe not everyone is phony.
But like you said, these moments are fragile. He can't hold on to that feeling, so he pushes on, trying to find some stability in a place from his childhood.
Which leads him to the Museum of Natural History, a place he loved as a kid.
And this is where the symbolism gets really powerful, isn't it? The museum represents permanence, things staying the same.
Exactly. The glass cases, the dioramas, the Eskimo. The Native Americans hunting, nothing inside ever changes. He loved that as a child, that feeling of knowing exactly what would be there.
But now standing outside, he can't bring himself to go in because he has this sudden, awful realization.
Yeah, moment. Or maybe oh no moment. The exhibits don't change, but he has. People change. They grow up. They lose that childhood certainty and that inevitability of change, of moving towards adulthood and maybe even death. It's just too much for him. He clings to the idea of permanence, the memory, rather than facing the reality of flux.
And that inability to accept change, to accept imperfection, leads straight into probably his most disastrous attempt at connection, the date with Sally Hayes.
Oh, Sally. He calls her on impulse, even though he knows deep down she's kind of shallow. But he's lonely. He needs someone.
They go see a play, and he just fumes the whole time. Hates the actors, hates the audience, hates Sally's perceived phoniness.
But the real explosion happens later at the ice skating rink cafe.
Yeah, he suddenly launches into this wild, desperate plan.
Totally out of the blue. Let's run away, he says. Just ditch everything, go live in a cabin in Vermont or Massachusetts, somewhere simple, away from cars and schools and phonies. It's his ultimate escape fantasy made verbal.
And Sally, Sally brings him crashing back to Earth. She's practical. She tells him it's ridiculous. They need to finish school, think about the future.
She represents reality, the need for compromise. And how does Holden handle that?
He completely loses it, calls her a royal pain in the ass, just burns that bridge completely.
It's that violent clash again, his romantic, impossible idealism hitting the wall of pragmatic adulthood. He can't negotiate, he can't compromise, so he destroys the connection to protect his perfect, unlivable dream.
And that really feels like the point of no return, the start of the final steep decline.
I think so. After the Sally blow-up, he tries one last time for maybe a more intellectual connection. He meets up with Carl Luce.
An older guy he knew from a previous school, now at Columbia. Supposedly more mature, experienced.
Right. And Holden is desperate for some kind of guidance, but he goes about it all wrong. He keeps asking these invasive, really immature questions, mostly about sex.
Luce gets uncomfortable pretty fast.
Yeah, Holden is just floundering, masking deep problems with this inappropriate chatter. He basically tells Holden he needs psychoanalysis and then just leaves him there.
Another adult recognizing the problem but ultimately abandoning him. So Holden's left alone again, and now he's drunk.
Drunk, freezing cold, wandering through Central Park at night, just completely adrift, and then the symbolic breaking point happens.
The record. The little Shirley Beans record he bought for Phoebe.
He drops it, and it shatters. That simple, innocent gift, something he wanted to give his sister, representing that purity he cherishes. Gone. Broken into pieces. It's like a symbol of his total inability to protect or preserve innocence, even the small thing.
And the fear really takes hold then, doesn't it? The existential dread.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He starts talking out loud to Allie, his dead brother, begging Allie, don't let me disappear. It's this profound fear of dissolving, of ceasing to exist because he feels so utterly disconnected from everyone and everything.
Feels like he's fading away.
That terror finally pushes him toward the one person he still feels completely connected to. The one person who represents authenticity for him.
Phoebe.
His 10-year-old sister. He has to see her. So he sneaks into his family's apartment.
And that reunion is one of the only truly warm, unguarded moments in the book. There's real love there.
There is. But Phoebe isn't just there for comfort. She provides the confrontation Holden actually needs. When she figures out he's been kicked out of another school, she's not just disappointed, she's angry.
She challenges it, right? Demands he name just one thing he likes. One thing he actually wants to be or do.
And it floors him. He can't really answer. He mentions Allie. He mentions the nuns. He's got nothing solid for his own future.
Yeah.
Phoebe forces him to articulate something. And that's when we get the core metaphor of the entire novel.
The catcher in the rye. He tells her his fantasy.
This image, it's heartbreakingly beautiful in a way. He imagines thousands of little kids playing in this big field of rye right near the edge of a cliff. And his job, his purpose in life, is to stand there and catch them. Catch them if they start to go over the edge. Stop them from falling.
Falling into what? Adulthood? Corruption? Mortality?
All of it, I think. It's his desperate attempt to freeze time, to prevent that inevitable loss of innocence, the fall that took Allie. But it's an impossible job. He's trying to be the savior of innocence, but he can't even save himself from his own fall.
Before he has to leave, he gives Phoebe his red hunting hat. That hat has been with him through this whole ordeal.
It's his symbol of individuality, maybe a kind of protective shield, but also vulnerability. Giving it to her is significant.
Then he sneaks out again, seeking one last potential anchor. Mr. Antolini, his old English teacher, someone he respected.
And Antolini actually gives him probably the most insightful advice in the book. He sees Holden as spiraling. He warns him about heading for a terrible fall.
Not just failing school, but a fall into despair, into maybe permanent alienation.
Right. And Antolini suggests the answer lies in education, in learning about the human condition through books, through history. He says it can give Holden the tools to navigate the world, to understand people, even the phonies.
It's good advice, solid advice. But
But
then,
then comes that incredibly unsettling, ambiguous moment. Holden falls asleep on Antolini's couch. He wakes up to find Antolini stroking or patting his head.
and we don't know, do we? Was it innocent, paternal, or something else?
Salinger leaves it deliberately unclear. But for Holden, in his state of heightened fear and paranoia about adult intentions and corruption, it doesn't matter what Antolini meant. Holden perceives it as threatening, as crossing a line.
It becomes the final nail in the coffin for his trust in adults. Even the smartest, kindest one in his eyes turns out to be potentially dangerous or at least untrustworthy. He flees again.
Terrified, confused, his last potential safe harbor is gone.
Just want to jump in here. If you're finding this discussion insightful, please do take a second to like, share, and subscribe to Bookwise with Vishal. It really helps us keep bringing you these summos.
Okay, so after running from Antolini's place, Holden is really at the absolute brink. He's physically sick, mentally unraveling, and that fear of disappearing intensifies. Every time he steps off a curb to cross the street, he feels like he might just vanish into thin air. It's sheer panic.
That's terrifying, and it pushes him towards his most extreme fantasy of escape yet.
The ultimate withdrawal. He decides he has to go west. But not just go west. He'll pretend to be a deaf mute. Yeah. Marry a deaf mute woman, build a cabin, just complete self-imposed silence and isolation. He thinks that's the only way to truly escape the phoniness, the noise, the pain of interaction.
It's the catcher fantasy taken to its logical, if impossible, conclusion. Freeze everything. Stop all communication. Stop all change. Eliminate connection to eliminate pain.
But even in this extreme plan, he can't quite sever that one tie. He realizes he has to say goodbye to Phoebe just one last time.
He arranges to meet her at the museum, planning to give her back her Christmas money before he vanishes.
But Phoebe shows up with a suitcase packed. She says she's coming with him.
Oh man, that must have just broken him.
Completely. Her absolute unconditional love, her stubborn refusal to let him go off alone, like that it forces him to see the consequences of his actions, the pain he's causing her. It shatters that image he had of himself as the noble, solitary wanderer. He has to take responsibility.
And that responsibility, that connection, leads to the emotional climax of the whole book, doesn't it? The carousel scene.
Yes. He can't run away now. So instead, he takes Phoebe to the carousel in Central Park. It starts to rain, or maybe sleet.
And as she's going round and round, reaching out for that gold ring, something shifts in Holden.
The carousel itself is symbolic, right? It's cyclical, like childhood maybe, moving but staying in one place. And Phoebe reaching for the ring that's about taking risks, striving for something, even if you might fall. And Holden, watching her, finally gets it. He has this breakthrough.
He realizes he can't stop kids from reaching, from growing up, from taking risks.
If they fall off, he thinks. It's the first moment of genuine acceptance we see from him. Acceptance of imperfection, of growth, of the necessity of risk. He's surrendering to reality, finally.
And he just stands there in the rain, watching her, and starts crying.
It's pure catharsis. Tears mixing with the rain. He realizes his role isn't to be the impossible catcher, stopping life. It's just to be there, to be present, to offer support, without needing to control everything.
Well, the catcher retires.
And that red hunting hat plays a role again here, too. He'd given it to Phoebe before she got on the carousel.
Right.
It's like he's passing on that protective mantle, trusting her own strength, her own resilience. He's accepting his role as just a brother, a supportive brother.
And what about the ducks? That question he keeps asking all through the book. Where did the ducks go in the winter?
That recurring question. It was always a stand-in for his own fears, wasn't it? Fear of disappearance, fear of how things survive, change, and hardship. The implied answer, of course, is that the ducks adapt. They leave? Maybe, but they come back. There's continuity even within change. Resilience. He doesn't get a direct answer, but maybe in this moment of acceptance, he doesn't need one anymore.
So the narrative jumps forward then. He's telling the story from the rest home.
Exactly. We realize the entire book we've just read was his process, his therapy, in a way, pouring out all the grief, the anger, the confusion, especially about Allie. The breakdown, the terrible fall Antolini predicted, it happened. But it wasn't just an end. It was a painful beginning.
And the most profound shift, the real evidence of growth, comes right at the very end. He thinks about everyone he's told us about.
Stradlater, Ackley, Sally, Maurice. Even the ones he spent the whole time tearing down as phonies.
And he says
he misses them. He actually misses everybody.
Wow.
After everything.
It's stunning, isn't it? That confession is everything. It shows he's realized that connection, even flawed, difficult, phony connection, is better than the absolute isolation he thought he wanted. To miss people, for Holden, means he cares about them. And he's starting to understand that vulnerability, that caring, is worth the risk of pain, the risk of disappointment.
Which makes that final line so poignant and complex. Don't ever tell anybody anything. If you do, you start missing everybody.
It's such a Holden thing to say. He still instinctively flinches from the vulnerability connection requires. He's warning us, maybe warning himself. But underneath the warning is the realization. Connection matters. It's worth the trouble. He's chosen, maybe tentatively, life with all its messiness over that sterile, safe exile. So his journey didn't lead him to suddenly fit in or become a model citizen.
No, not at all. It redefined that coming-of-age arc. He doesn't find neat moral lessons. He finds emotional awareness. He finds the very beginnings of compassion, maybe even for himself. He's learning, painfully, to live with contradiction.
If you've enjoyed this discussion, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Bookwise with Vishal so you don't miss our next summary.
And you know, the power of Catcher really lasts, because Salinger refuses to wrap it all up neatly. We don't get a happily ever after or even a definitely okay now. It's an open ending.
Right. He's in the institution, he's calmer, he's had this insight about missing people, but where does he go from here?
And that leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? We saw the breakthrough of the carousel, the catharsis.
Yeah.
But healing isn't usually a single moment. It's a long process.
So what does that final admission, I miss everybody, really imply for his future? Is he genuinely on a path toward accepting the world, toward managing the pain that comes with caring? Or is this just a lull? Is he just resting up before he puts that red hunting hat back on and heads back out to fight the phonies, retreating into alienation again?
The ambiguity is kind of the whole point, maybe. He's taken that first huge step, choosing connection over isolation, accepting the risk, reaching for the ring. But that struggle, the struggle to be authentic in a world that often feels phony, that feels like it will always be part of Holden's story, it's never truly over.
Which book would you love to hear summarized next? Drop your suggestion in the comments. Your pick might be featured in the next episode. Thank you for joining us for this in-depth look at the source material.